everyone. I'm Sean White, instructional designer here in the School of Nursing. And in this video, I am going to give everybody a general overview of our classroom equipment here in the School of Nursing. Primarily the equipment in the first floor classrooms, but also most of what I'll say applies to the equipment in the third, fourth, and fifth floor classrooms here as well. The reason I think it's probably a good idea to give everybody an overview and or a refresher on our classroom equipment is for a few reasons. One, we've been living through a pandemic and many of us have been teaching from home or from our offices, and some of you have probably not taught in our classrooms in 2 years, or as usually as you did before COVID. And some of you were hired to the School of Nursing during the pandemic, and so you may never have taught in these classrooms at all, and this may be the first semester that you're doing that. And so whether from a need for a refresher or because you never got any kind of introduction in the first place, I have seen some number of times when people left our classrooms without completely shutting everything down or thinking that everything was turned off when in fact it wasn't. And so I have no intention of shaming anyone. We're not here to call anybody out, but I do want to simply give a reminder and go through the basics for anyone who maybe never got them or just needs a refresher. So if you would like an in-depth overview in person, I will be happy to meet with you in the classroom in which you will be teaching, and we can spend some time one-on-one answering your questions. This video is meant to serve as a quick overview in case you don't have or don't want to spend the time to meet with me individually. In general, I'm going to talk about the basics of how to turn on our classroom equipment, how to turn it off, how to use our microphones, how to adjust the lights in the room, how to adjust the height of the desk that you're using, what the panic button is, how to use the document camera, how not to turn off the system, and a little bit of information that's here on the tables for you in case you have questions or you need help. So that's our table of contents for today. So let's jump into it. Let's talk about how to turn on our wonderful classroom equipment. Every room, as you probably already know, or if for those of you who are newer to the School of Nursing, you will learn, every classroom in the School of Nursing is slightly different. So what I'm going to say to you here in 1.108 on the first floor will be slightly different in the rooms next door or on the upper floors. But I'm going to cover the basics, and so what I say here should apply in all those other classrooms. So when you come into the classroom on the first floor, the screens should be up in the ceiling. The projectors should be turned off. If the lights are off, you can press the light button at the entrance to turn the lights on. And everything at the front of the desk should be more or less as you see it here. A blank computer screen, speakers, the touch panel, this is the control panel for the equipment, and the document camera. It should all look more or less like this. Though sometimes it's a bit more messy because there are a lot of things on this desk. So to turn on the computer, and I am assuming you're not using a laptop. These are the instructions for how to use the equipment that's here in the room. Turning on the computer and the projector is a two-step process. So the first thing you're going to do is use the touch panel to turn on the projectors and lower the screens. To do that, you press on the touch panel the button here that says computer. When I press the computer button, you notice the lights automatically dimmed to the presentation setting and the computer screens automatically lower. And I have to move the screen because it's about to crash into the camera. There we go. And the projector automatically comes on. So when I press the computer button, all of those things happen automatically. The next thing, step 2, is to log into the computer. To do that, I pull the keyboard out from underneath the desk, and then you saw as I pulled the keyboard out, this screen automatically lit up. And now I have 2 options. I can log into Macintosh, the Mac operating system, or the Windows operating system. You can use either one, whichever you prefer. I prefer Windows, so I'm going to double click the Windows icon. Then you see it will restart. The restart process should be very quick. We just heard the sound. It typically takes less than a minute for the computer to start up. If you find that it takes longer than that, there may be a problem, but just be patient. Typically, it's about as quick as we see here. And it shouldn't take very long, but as usual, when we're staring at it and waiting for it, it seems like it's taking an eternity. Okay, once the computer does start up, you will be prompted to press Control-Alt-Delete to unlock the machine. So I'll do that, Control-Alt-Delete. Next is the notice of acceptable use. You simply press Enter and click OK. Then we're prompted to enter our credentials, in this case our UT, EID, and password. So I'll log in there. It recognizes my EID, and it is preparing to log me in. Again, this process should be very quick because these are fairly new computers, but if something doesn't move about that quickly, I'll explain later how you can get help. After you log in with your EID, this is the desktop as you should see it. Obviously, if you're using the Mac operating system, it's going to be slightly different. But on the PC, we don't have a whole lot of desktop icons because we don't really need that many. From here, you can navigate to wherever you want to on the internet. I can open up Google Chrome or Firefox or Zoom. There's even an icon here to take me straight into the Canvas homepage. So if you double click the Canvas icon, this will take you straight to where you can log into Canvas with your EID and password. So that's a bit of a long-winded version of how to turn on the classroom equipment. Step 1, you press the computer button on the control panel. That turns on the projector and the screen. Step 2, we log in with our EID and password to the computer and pick Mac or Windows. Turning everything off is exactly the opposite. Again, it's a 2-step process, and we're going to do the same 2 steps, just in a slightly different order. So when I'm finished teaching and my class is done, and I want to turn everything off, the first thing I do is close whatever I'm using on the computer. I close my PowerPoint slideshow, I close Canvas, I shut everything down here, and then at the very top of the screen there's a button that says Log Out. You have to log out of the computer, or else it is theoretically possible that somebody could log in as you and do who knows what. So double click Log Out. When I do that, the computer automatically restarts and it shuts itself down. So I can hide the keyboard, and we're finished with that. That's step 1. Step 2 is turning off the projector and the screens. So to do that, I'm going to press the power icon in the upper left corner. And when I do that, it asks me, are you finished? Yes or no. If I'm finished, I press yes. And the screen automatically raises up to the ceiling, and the projectors turn themselves off. That's all there is to it. Again, 2 steps to turn everything on and 2 steps to turn it off. But please don't forget both of those 2 steps, because we don't want to leave things on and waste electricity and so on. So that's turning things on and off. Next, the microphones. All of the first floor classrooms and the upper floor classrooms are equipped with brand new, very powerful speakers in the ceiling. And these microphones allow you to take advantage of that and make sure that everybody can hear you clearly. Each of the first floor classrooms is equipped with 2 microphones. a lapel or lavalier microphone that you can clip on, or a handheld microphone. Each of these microphones works exactly the same way. When you come into the room, you'll find them placed in this cradle here on the desk. To turn them on, you simply pick one up out of the cradle. The light here will flash, red and green. Then when it stays green, that's your indication that it's working. And the speakers are coming through loud and clear. To turn a microphone off, you can press the button, and when it's red, that means it's off. Press it again to turn it on. When you're finished using the microphone, you place it back in its cradle and it turns off the speakers. The lavalier microphone works exactly the same way. To turn it on, you pick it up and start using it. To turn it off, you place it back in the cradle, it turns off. Please don't forget to place them back in the cradle carefully because they can break somewhat easily. Don't try to force them into the cradle. But that's the basics of how to use the microphones. In addition to those microphones, the first floor classrooms also have this small round microphone. This is the microphone that's used for the system called Lectures Online. If you're not using Lectures Online, you can safely ignore it. If you are, this is the microphone that's recording the sound, the audio, for your classroom recording. So you just want to make sure that you are more or less arm's length, or maybe no more than a couple of yards away from this microphone. And you don't want to, put your notebook over the top of it or anything like that to obscure the sound. So that's what this round microphone is for. Next, let's talk about the lights in the classrooms. On the third, fourth, and fifth floor, all of the classrooms have nothing more than a light switch. It's all on or all off. But here on the first floor, we have a little bit more flexibility. All of the classrooms have the ability to be sort of medium or low light or all the way on. To adjust the lights in these classrooms, on the control panel here, there's a small light bulb icon on the right-hand side. When I press that light bulb, the control panel shows me the lighting controls. Right now they're all on, which is what the first option is, or all off. I can turn them off and the room goes black. Presentation mode lowers the lights somewhat, but it turns off the lights in the very front row of the classroom closest to the projection screen. The purpose of this is to reduce the glare from those lights. There's also a low preset. If you wanted to watch a film or not have the lights all the way on, and a medium preset. All of these options are here for you to play with to set them as you see fit for your class. All on is the default. The presentation setting will come on when you turn on the projector screen. So just be aware of that. And then to close this screen, there's an X you can press to return you to the main screen. So that's how to adjust the lights in the classrooms. And I'm going to turn them all on so that it's not too dark in here. In addition to adjusting the lights in the room, you can also adjust the height of the table, which couldn't be much simpler, but unless you know it's there, you may not even think about it. All of the classrooms in the School of Nursing have adjustable height desks, with one exception. But all the ones on the first floor, third, fourth, and fifth, except for the 4.180 conference room. But all the other classrooms have a desk much like this one. And on this desk, on the lower right-hand corner, there are two arrows, an up arrow and a down arrow. When I press the up arrow, the desk goes up pretty high. When I press the down arrow, the desk goes down. You can lower it probably lower than you would ever need it to go, and you can raise it probably higher than you would ever need it to be as well. It's intended so that you can, if you want, you can sit comfortably at the desk, or you can stand. Two faculty of different height can co-teach and adjust the height depending on their needs at any given time. Use your imagination. But that's how to adjust the desk. It really couldn't be much simpler. Now, a caveat. At least one of our classrooms doesn't have the small arrow controls on the table here. Instead, it uses these two arrows on the control panel. So just so you're aware, if you don't see these arrows on the actual table itself, there are arrows on the control panel on the desk. So take a look at those and see if that'll help you. Now we're going to talk about something that is unique to the first floor classrooms only, and that's the panic button. The third, fourth, and fifth floor classrooms do not have this feature. But in each of the 5 first floor classrooms, underneath the table, usually on the far left-hand side, is a button labeled Emergency, Call Police. So in the event that there is an emergent situation in your classroom and you need police dispatched, you can press that button, and within 2 to 3 minutes, the building guards here in the School of Nursing and University PD will be dispatched to that location. If you press the button inadvertently, don't worry about it. It is not the kind of button that you could just brush your arm past it and press it that way. That will not happen. You have to try to press the button. But if you do, don't worry. I've done it myself. It's not the end of the world. It's there just in case. Next, I want to talk about the document camera. The document camera is a feature in all of our first floor classrooms and most of the upper floors as well. The ones here on the first floor work a little bit differently than the ones upstairs do, however. The document camera is also a 2-step process to turn on or to turn off. To turn on the document camera, the first thing I would do is here on the control panel, I would press the button that says Document Camera. When I press that button, what it does is it switches the display on the projector from whatever I have showing on the computer, like a PowerPoint slideshow, to what's underneath the document camera. The second step is to lift the arm here of the document camera. And it's that simple. There is a small gray handle right here on the corner that says pull. When I pull that up, the light at the top turns on and it automatically displays what's here on the surface. So that's using the document camera. In addition to that, turning it on, there are focus buttons, there's a freeze and preset, and a zoom so that you can turn this wheel and zoom in or zoom out. When you're finished using the document camera, turning it off couldn't be much simpler. Again, 2 steps. First, you pull down the handle that's labeled pull that we used to raise it, and instead pull back to lower it all the way. That turns out the light. And then we want to go to the control panel and press computer instead of document camera. And there you have it. Switching from doc cam to computer, or if you're using a laptop, you would press a different button. But switching from the document camera to the computer is really just a simple matter of pressing a couple of buttons and raising or lowering the arm. Next, I wanted to touch on some things that you should avoid. Let's say what not to do in our classrooms. On these control panels in the first floor, once again, there are 2 features that I have noticed can sometimes be used in a way that makes it seem as if the person teaching in the room thought they were turning off the system, when in fact they're muting the system, but it's still running. One of them is called glassboard mode. If I press this button for glassboard mode, what it does is it raises the screens. so I can write on the glass board. Maybe I want to draw a diagram or an equation or write notes from a classroom conversation, but I don't want to turn off the projector. Well, glassboard mode allows me to do that. I can raise the screen, write whatever I want to, and then lower it without turning off the equipment and then waiting for everything to turn back on. The mute projector button does something similar. It turns the screen black without raising the screens, but it doesn't turn off the projector. So just try to remember, there is one way to turn everything off, and that's with the power button. If I press the power icon in the top right corner, it says, "Are you finished?" If I press yes, the screen will raise, the projectors will turn off, and after I log out of the computer, it would look like this screen that you see here. That's how to turn everything off. If I'm not done, I just press no. So just remember, glassboard mode doesn't turn things off. Mute doesn't turn things off either. Think of it like pressing the mute button on your TV. You can't hear anything, but the TV's still on. But if you do this by mistake, it's also not the end of the world. Nobody's going to come arrest you. Another thing to be aware of in all of these classrooms are all of these cables and cords and adapters that can be quite confusing and quite messy, because as you can see, there are several of them, and they're often not as organized as they are even now. Each of them serves a different function. Some of them you may never need to use, and some of you use them all the time. The simplest one is a USB adapter. This is what you could use if you had a thumb drive with a PowerPoint slideshow on it or a video saved and you wanted to plug it in and play it from here. This is probably the most straightforward, and every first floor classroom has at least one USB port like this one. In addition to that, this room and all the other first floor classrooms has a second USB port, but that port is being used for the webcam that's sitting here on top of the computer. This webcam enables you to use Zoom as easily as possible from these classrooms. Next, we have this cable with a whole bunch of adapters tied to it. On the cable, it says laptop HDMI. What this cable and the adapters allow you to do is connect your laptop via this cable to the classroom system. And it has all of the adapters that you might need. So if you have an older Mac, you can connect these two together and then plug it into your Mac that way. If you have a newer Mac with the USB-C, you can plug this into the white one and plug that into your Mac. If you have an older PC, an older Windows laptop, you can use the HDMI to DP outlet like so. You just connect two together, or if you have an older laptop, you can just connect directly to HDMI. And this will allow you to connect your laptop, and then you would press the HDMI button on the screen to show your laptop on the big projector screen. So these allow you to use an external laptop. In addition to that, you have two more cables here that are going to be useful to you if you are teaching via Zoom. So if you're using the classroom computer and you're Zooming with your students, or maybe you have some in class and some at home, who knows what your configuration might be, these two cables allow you to connect the Zoom dock cam and the Zoom microphone via your laptop, so that people on Zoom, not just here in the classroom, will be able to see what you're showing on the document camera, and they'll be able to hear through your microphone more clearly. So these two cables are useful if you're teaching in Zoom. If you're not, you can safely ignore them. If you don't need to use any of these, you can also simply, carefully, place them over the edge of the table that way and get them out of your way so that you have a cleaner workspace. All of the classrooms in this building also have a variety of material to help you keep things clean and sanitary. So as you see here, we've got a jar of hand sanitizer. We've got some alcohol wipes to wipe things down. And every room should have at least a small quantity of extra face masks in case you or your students need one. And as I mentioned, all of these things should be available in every classroom. And lastly, if you're in our classrooms and you have questions, or you come in and you forget and you're busy so you don't remember, who knows, every room has a cheat sheet, and it usually lives right here underneath the control panel. The front page of this cheat sheet gives you an overview of some of the things I've talked about here, how to turn things on, how to turn things off. It also gives you the phone number to call if you have technical problems. If something breaks, if the internet connection goes down, who knows what might happen. If something goes wrong specifically with the classroom technology, this is the number to call. That same number is also right here on the table. The second page of our cheat sheet is specific to using Zoom in our classrooms. As I mentioned, every room has one of these webcams so that you can Zoom from the classroom. But in addition to that, because we're using an external webcam, you'll have to do things like adjust the microphone and video settings so that you can use Zoom in this classroom. And if you need any help with Zoom or other teaching technologies, my phone number is listed at the bottom here, so you can contact me anytime if you have any questions. So that's a hopefully not too long and drawn out overview of the basics of how to use our first floor classrooms, and for the most part, how you would go about using the classrooms on the third, fourth, and fifth floor. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me, and I will be more than happy to come and meet with you one-on-one, as I mentioned, or answer your questions by phone or email or whatever you prefer. Thanks for watching.